We are T-minus 2 weeks to go until Battlefield 6 launches, guys. And I might just say real quick, where the hell did this year go? Like, seriously, how the hell have we made it to October 2025 already? I feel like I fell asleep in February and have woken up to Mariah Carey defrosting out of a summertime deep freeze storage unit. But anyways, I digress. The day is almost upon us, and despite that, we are still getting more and more info from both the developers and the game's appearance at Tokyo Game Show that I think is worth diving into today. So we're going to do a very quick download on all the latest from Battlefield 6 with some gameplay in the background for your viewing pleasure. Sounds good? Alright, bet. A lot of the news has been coming thick and fast out of the Tokyo Game Show, which ran over the past weekend just gone. Battlefield had a massive presence there with this incredible booth. You can really tell that they're just going all out with the theming, and I've got to be honest, guys, as an Australian with PAX Australia right around the corner, I'm a bit jealous that we aren't going to be seeing a Battlefield presence at this year's show here in Land Down Under. But TGS also served as a really good opportunity for us to get a first look at the Manhattan Bridge map, which is slated to be one of the game's medium-sized urban maps that also features helicopters and ground vehicles. No jets on this one, but we already knew that going into this, so no surprises there. I have to be honest here, guys. Obviously, this is coming from somebody who hasn't actually had hands-on time with the map just yet and is assessing it as a third party with gameplay that's on the screen here now, but this looks like an absolute blast to play on. It looks like it's going to really facilitate some chaotic, intense, messy urban combat with a bit of a cat and mouse dynamic between the infantry and the vehicles, similar to what we see on Cairo, but only this time, air vehicles are thrown into the mix as well. One thing I am a bit disappointed about is that, well, the bridge, being the namesake of the map, doesn't actually appear to be a playable section of this layout, which might have been a bit of a missed opportunity if I'm being honest here, but I also imagine that it's going to be a really cool set piece for helicopters to leverage and to break line of sight with, or to get some really good ambushes going. So there will be a slight gameplay element there too. I also imagine that just if the bridge is in fact modeled and rendered correctly, then we may actually see some portal maps using this bad boy in the future, or even some official layouts as well. So that I'm excited to see, or hopeful to see. We'll see what happens there. Despite that, the base layout of the map looks pretty solid here as well. It's extremely symmetric in nature, but the scale of the infantry player markings that we do see in the screenshot gives us a really good idea as to how the map actually scales. And while on first impression I certainly took a look at it and went, oh, that's a bit small, I actually anticipate there'll be a good sense of downtime between the objectives because, again, looking at, the size of the infantry player markings, they do look quite small, which means there is some open ground to cover and there's some space between the objectives. Once again, a personal prediction from me, and we actually need to get our hands on with the map first, but it looks pretty good from a gameplay perspective. But TGS has not been our only source of news over the past few days when it comes to maps as well. We've also had the official Battlefield account dropping some sneak peeks at both New Sobeck City and Saints Quarter, which means that in some way, shape or form, we've now had a sneak peek or hands-on time at the complete map roster for this game at launch. Now, New Sobeck City, alongside Manhattan Bridge, is the other medium-sized map coming to the game that is going to feature both helicopters and ground vehicles. And we saw some pretty extensive gameplay footage of this map in action during the PC trailer that dropped, I think, about a month ago now. The map layout on this bad boy looks interesting. I imagine that the B and the D flag in particular is going to be the absolute slugfest on this map, given that the HQ's back directly onto these points. And throw onto the fact that there are helicopters available on this map, I think there's going to be a lot of verticality in action here as well, and you'll likely have, stinger squads on rooftops, so on and so forth. I do wonder, with all that in mind, how easy it will be to actually spawn lock teams with this layout, but only time will tell when we get our hands on it on October 10th. Saints Quarter was the final map to get a recent showcase on the Battlefield official account as well, and while we don't have an actual map layout posted for this map, we did get a good, before and after comparison on how this map is going to, look after the destruction has had its way with it. Now, for clarity's sake, a lot of people on Twitter were a bit confused in thinking that this was the map set in Gibraltar that we already played in the open beta, which is not the case. This is actually another infantry-only map that's coming to the game alongside State Empire. And look, I gotta be honest, like, come on. I know there's a deep-seated hatred with infantry-only maps in the Battlefield community, but this does look like it's gonna be a lot of fun to play on. You know, there's subtle levels of verticality throughout the map here, but there's also means to flush people out with explosions and destruction, and then the destruction leaves ample cover after the fact, so the map is gonna flow in a very interesting way by the looks of things here. I'm not going to lie, I'm all for it. I know it's another infantry-only map, I know people don't like that, but I'm really looking forward to playing on this one personally. And look, truth be told, as a bit of a reflection point here too, I'm really liking the map package for Battlefield 6 here now that we've gotten a good look at most of them. Yes, it is a touch lighter on the larger scale stuff, but I stand by the fact that this is far more in line with the Battlefield 3 map offering at launch when it comes to scale, and that was one of the best map lineups that the series has ever seen at the launch of a game. Battlefield 2042 showed us exactly what happens when you go overboard on the sensor's scale, and well, even Battlefield 4, I would argue, had a pretty weak map offering when it came to variety, given that a lot of those maps were extremely vehicle heavy and extremely vehicle dependent. Yet again, Battlefield 6 is taking more of an approach towards a variety of experiences here that I think is actually going to give the game far more replayability at launch. I'm all for it. So yeah, a ton of news on the maps already, and the curtain has well and truly been lifted on the map offering for sure. But would you guys believe me if I told you that that wasn't all? No? Well, Byron Beatty also dropped a bunch of tidbits at TGS through what I imagine was either a speech or an interview of some description, and it reads as follows. Season 1 will debut very shortly after launch, as Battlefield Studios has begun preparations for future seasonal content with new weapons, vehicles, and maps being added regularly. General Manager Byron Beatty says the team have made adjustments and fixes that will be coming both at launch and beyond, so there's a patch coming for the launch build of the game. Quote, "We've been making so many adjustments based on open beta feedback. Adjustments to weapons, customization options, recoil, tap fire mechanics, rewarding precision, and emphasizing their unique feel and performance. And you'll see through our brand new kinesthetic combat system, the movement mechanics have been adjusted. We're reducing slide jump momentum, penalizing jump spamming, and decreasing accuracy whilst mid-air to promote more tactical gameplay. We've also made other fixes and adjustments we can't wait for you to experience at launch and beyond," end quote. Now, there's a couple of things to unpack there, but I want to focus on the adjustment section there that speaks to weapons, movement nerfs, and recoil characteristics first. And because there's a few of us who have gotten some hands-on time with the updated version of the game that we played on Mirak Valley and Operation Firestorm a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of those exact changes, or at least they sound to be exact changes that Byron is mentioning here, were in the build that we were playing. So there has been a bit of a question mark throughout the community as to whether he's referring to additional changes on top of what we already played, or the very changes that we got our hands on are the ones that he's speaking to. I know that a few people in particular started to doom post on Twitter that movement was being gutted yet again, and that there were more changes in fact on the way, but I'm going to be honest here guys in saying that I think that he may be referring to the very changes that we were playing in that Mirak Valley build of the game a couple of weeks ago, especially given that in his quote, he's referring to adjustments that have been made in response to the open beta. I think that's a very key line there. The Mirak Valley and Operation Firestorm capture sessions, while they were a great opportunity for feedback and testing, were quite frankly mainly just an opportunity for content creators to come out and get some content. So I imagine that not a whole lot will have materially changed here between that point and where we're going to be at launch, at least to the extent that Byron is referring to in this quote. I wouldn't get too worried about there being another big round of movement nerfs or wholesale weapon changes, because in all honesty, the game doesn't really need it. It felt very clean to play in the Mirak Valley capture session that I got to attend, and in all honesty, I think that any additional changes should come post-launch with additional, broader community testing. However, another point of interest we need to focus on here real quickly is Byron's statement around post-launch content, in that Season 1 is debuting very shortly after launch, and that the studio has begun preparations for future seasonal content. There's already obviously been speculation throughout the community, and of course some leaks here and there, that we're going to be getting Season 1 of the game pretty soon after launch, maybe even as soon as 2 weeks, which is a little unprecedented for the Battlefield franchise, if memory serves me correctly, but nonetheless, it's exciting to know that, yes, post-release content is coming pretty bloody quickly. My only hope behind this is that DICE, or Battlefield Studios more broadly, have learnt their lesson from 2042 in that one new large map every season just simply isn't going to be enough. Battlefield 2042's post-launch cadence when it came to updates and keeping the community interested was, quite frankly, atrocious. We got a new season every 3 months, assuming those seasons weren't delayed in effect to try and, repair the game from its atrocious launch state. And even then, the post-launch maps that came to 2042 were pretty grim as well, and we only really started seeing some really decent maps come, say, maybe Season 4 or 5 and beyond. I think there's no denying that if Battlefield 6 launches in a good spot, the community is going to be hungry for an extremely aggressive but effective post-launch cycle. And if the devs can, commit to even 2, maybe 3 maps of varying sizes every season, then I think that's going to be a really healthy injection of content on a regular basis. Alongside, say, 5 or 6 weapons, that's a really solid layout of content here that's going to keep us busy, every few months here, and it's going to keep the game feeling fresh as time goes on. That leads to 12 maps per year and approximately 24 weapons per year as well in the post-launch. Will DICE be up to it? We'll soon see. But folks, that is basically the roundup of news that we have for Battlefield 6 here, a mere 2 weeks out from the game's launch here. Safe to say, guys, it's getting pretty bloody exciting here. I, for one, am very excited for the plan of content and the slew of content I have for you guys come the launch of this game, so make sure you subscribe for that here if you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to backhand the like button as well, guys. It does go a long way in appeasing Papa YouTube algorithm. And leave a comment down below, guys. What are your thoughts on new Sobeck City and Manhattan Bridge? Are they appeasing to your tastes, or is the game stepping further and further away from what you're wanting? Let me know down below, guys. Looking forward to discussing it with you all in the comment section down below. But until next time, I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace out, and see you guys then. Have a good one, guys.